Picture this. It's a Tuesday morning. You're sitting in your car in the parking lot before work. Engine off, hands still on the wheel. You've been sitting there for 6 minutes. Not because you're early, because you can't make yourself go inside yet. The last 3 months have been brutal. Your manager keeps moving the goalposts, a coworker left and nobody replaced them. You've been carrying double the workload at the same pay with the same title and zero acknowledgement. And today you finally decided to do something about it. Because someone told you, just go talk to HR. That's literally what they're there for. So you took a breath, you grabbed your bag, you walked in. And for the first time in months, you felt something close to hope. You sat down across from the HR rep, someone you've always found warm, approachable, genuinely kind, and you just opened up. You talked about your manager, you talked about the workload, you talked about how invisible you've been feeling. You said the thing you'd been holding in for months. I just needed someone to finally hear me. And they nodded. They handed you a tissue. They said all the right things. You walked out of that office feeling lighter than you had in months. 3 weeks later, you were called into a meeting. Your manager was there, HR was there, and on the table with your name printed at the top was a performance improvement plan. You didn't get help that day. You built your own case file, and nobody warned you. What's up, everyone? It's Soluna from Soluna versus the System. Today, we are going into a room that most people think is safe and exposing exactly why it isn't. We're talking about HR, human resources, the department that exists at every company, that presents itself as a neutral support system, and that most employees trust by default. By the end of this video, you will never walk into that office the same way again, because there are 10 specific things people say to HR every single day, things that feel completely reasonable, even necessary to say, that quietly get used against them. Let's get into it. Part 1. The truth about HR that nobody tells you. Before we get into the list, I need to give you the foundation, because once you understand this one thing, everything else will make complete sense. HR is not on your side. I'm not saying that to be dramatic. I'm not saying HR people are evil, or that everyone who works in HR has bad intentions. A lot of HR professionals are genuinely warm, caring, and well-meaning people. But here's the reality that does not change no matter how nice the person across from you is. HR exists to protect the company, not you, the company. Think about it. Who pays HR? The company. Who does HR report to? Leadership. Whose interests does HR exist to serve at the end of every single workday? The organization. And that means every single thing you say inside that office gets filtered through one question. Not, is this person hurting? Not, is this fair? Not, how do we make this better for this employee? The question is this a risk to the company? That's the filter. That's the only filter. And once you truly internalize that, once it stops feeling like a cynical take and starts feeling like the practical reality it is, you will stop walking into that office hoping to be understood and start walking in knowing exactly what game you're playing. Now, let's talk about the 10 things you should never say to HR. Number 1, I hate my manager. I know. Some managers genuinely deserve it. Some of them are truly terrible, micromanaging, credit-stealing, direction-changing nightmares who make your professional life miserable every single day. But the second those words come out of your mouth in an HR conversation, something shifts. You stop being the person with a legitimate problem. You become the problem. HR doesn't go home thinking about your suffering. HR goes home thinking about how to resolve the conflict. And the fastest, cleanest way to resolve a conflict is to manage the person who raised it. You become a file, a situation, a liability to be contained. What to say instead? I'm having some challenges working with my manager and I'd like to talk through some solutions. Same issue, completely different outcome. One makes you sound like a complaint, one makes you sound like a professional.
Number 2, this isn't fair. Of course it's not fair. A lot of things at work aren't fair. But here's the problem. Fair is an emotion, and emotions without structure make you look reactive, not credible. HR doesn't operate on the principle of fairness. HR operates on the principle of policy, rules, documentation, process. So instead of saying this isn't fair, which tells them nothing actionable, ask which policy or process was used to make this decision. That question does the exact same thing. It challenges the decision, but now you sound like someone in control, not someone who's upset. Number 3, I've been so stressed and anxious. And this one I want to handle carefully, because your stress is real, your anxiety is valid. 83% of American workers report experiencing work-related stress. You are absolutely not alone in this. But when you say it to HR without structure, without a specific ask, without framing, it quietly becomes evidence. Evidence that you're struggling to handle your responsibilities. Evidence that builds a picture, not the one you meant to paint, but the one they're allowed to paint with what you gave them. What to say instead is, the current workload has created some real capacity issues. I want to talk about how we can prioritize more effectively. Same problem, but now you're a professional identifying a business issue, not someone falling apart in the HR office. Number 4, I don't get paid enough. Possibly the truest sentence in this entire video. Most people don't get paid enough. That is a statistical fact. But walking into HR and saying that without preparation is like walking into a negotiation having already shown your hand. You've given up all your leverage before the conversation even starts. What to say instead is, I'd like to schedule time to discuss my compensation based on my contributions and current market data. That sentence opens a negotiation. The other one opens a complaint file. My coworker told me, the moment another person's name comes out of your mouth in an HR meeting, you have just made everything significantly more complicated. Now HR has to think about your coworker. Now you look like someone connected to office gossip, even if everything your coworker told you is completely true, even if it's important, even if it directly affects your situation. The rule is simple. Only speak to what you personally witnessed. First-person observations only. Keep other people's names out of it entirely. Number 6, off the record. There is no off the record in HR. I need you to really hear that. There is no casual chat. There is no just between us. HR professionals are often legally required to document certain disclosures. An informal comment you throw in at the end of a meeting can become a formal record. When you say off the record, you think you're protecting yourself. You're actually giving them more, because now they have both the official version and the unguarded version. The rule, if you wouldn't want it to see it written down in a document with your name on it, don't say it. Number 7, I'm looking for another job. People say this thinking it creates urgency, thinking the company will suddenly realize how valuable they are and respond accordingly. Sometimes that works. Most of the time, the moment you signal that you might be leaving, the company quietly stops investing in your future there. Why put you in the leadership development program if you might be gone in 90 days? Why fight for your raise in the budget meeting? Why give you the high visibility project? Keep your job search private. Always, especially when it's true, especially when it's going well. Number 8, I don't trust leadership. This one gets you flagged instantly. And I understand why people say it. Sometimes leadership genuinely cannot be trusted. Sometimes the culture at the top is exactly as broken as it looks from the bottom. But HR works for the organization that leadership built. Telling HR you don't trust leadership is like complaining to someone's best friend that you don't like them. You are not going to get sympathy. You are going to be reported. What to say instead is, I want to make sure I understand the direction we're heading so I can stay aligned and contribute effectively. Same underlying concern, 0 red flags, 0 profile.
Number 9, I just needed to vent. HR is not where you vent. HR is where things get recorded. The moment you say, I just needed to vent, you have just told them that everything you said before that sentence was emotional rather than factual. Your feelings just became your professional reputation. If you need to vent, and we all do, it's human, it's necessary, call a friend, talk to your partner, see a therapist, process it somewhere that doesn't have a filing system, just not in that office. Number 10, I'm going to sue. I know exactly why people say this. When you feel completely powerless, when nothing else has worked, when you've tried everything and the situation is still getting worse, this feels like the one card you have left. But the moment those words leave your mouth, the conversation stops being human. It becomes legal. HR can no longer engage informally. Every word gets measured, every response gets reviewed. Any chance of resolving things quietly, privately, without permanent consequences disappears completely the moment that sentence lands. If you genuinely believe you have a legal case, talk to an employment attorney first, before you say a single word to HR. An attorney can tell you what you have, what you need, and exactly how to protect yourself. Say it without that preparation, and you lose the moment you open your mouth. Part 3. The pattern underneath all 10. Did you catch it? Every single one of those 10 things has the same core problem underneath it. Honest feelings with no strategy. Real pain with no plan. And here's the important part. None of that is your fault. Nobody sits you down before your first job and says, by the way, HR is not your friend. Here's how to talk to them without hurting yourself. Nobody explains that the most dangerous thing you can sometimes do at work is simply be honest without thinking carefully about who is listening and what they're allowed to do with what you say. The lesson is not to stop being honest. The lesson is to be smart about where you put that honesty and who receives it and how it's framed when it leaves your mouth. Because at work, truth without a plan can cost you everything. So, what do you actually do? Here's the exact 3-step framework. Step 1, speak in facts, not feelings. Not, I feel like this situation is completely unfair. But this decision was made without the evaluation criteria being clearly communicated to me. Can we walk through that process together? Same concern, completely different professional profile. Step 2, always have a specific ask. Know what you want to walk out with before you walk in, not just a problem, a requested outcome. I'd like clarity on X. I'd like to understand the process for Y. I'd like to discuss options for Z. A specific ask makes you look solution-oriented. Vague frustration makes you look like a risk to be managed. Step 3, write it down before you go in. 3 things on paper before that meeting starts. 1, what specifically happened. 2, what outcome you are requesting. 3, what you will say if the conversation goes somewhere unexpected. 3 sentences. That's the difference between walking in vulnerable and walking in prepared. And that difference, it can determine the entire trajectory of what comes next. Part 5. Back to Ashley. Remember Ashley from the beginning? 9 years at the same company, good at her job, shows up, delivers, gives everything she has. She didn't lose because she wasn't good enough. She lost because she walked into that office open, unguarded, and completely unprepared. She said real things, true things, things that genuinely needed to be said. But she said them without a plan, without a specific ask, without thinking about who was really sitting across from her and what that person was actually allowed to do with everything she shared. And every word she said, every honest, vulnerable, heartfelt word got used. The opposite of what happened to Ashley is not dishonesty. It is simply being prepared.
Part 6, the bigger picture. And here's what I want you to take away from all of this. Not just the list, not just the tactics, but the bigger truth underneath everything. The workplace, is a system, and like any system, it has rules that are written down and rules that are never written down anywhere. The written rules? Those are in your employee handbook, your contract, your company's official policies. The unwritten rules, those are what we talk about on this channel. The unwritten rule about HR is this: that office is not a safe space. It is a processing center. And the most powerful thing you can do for your career, for your income, for your peace of mind, is learn how to navigate that processing center like someone who knows exactly what it is. Not angry, not bitter, not paranoid, just prepared. Because the people who thrive long-term in professional environments are not the ones who trust blindly or the ones who trust no one. They're the ones who know exactly which rooms are safe and which ones require a different level of awareness. You just learned the difference. Ashley went in to get help. She left with a target on her back. Not because she lied, not because she did anything wrong, because she was honest in a room that was never designed to protect her honesty. Now you know something she didn't know when she walked through that door. So here's my question. Drop it in the comments right now. Have you ever said something to HR or at work and later realized it changed how people treated you? What happened? I read every single comment, and I promise someone reading your comment is going to recognize their own story in it. If you know someone who is about to walk into an HR meeting thinking it's a safe place, send them this video today, before they walk in that door, because one conversation can change everything. And if you want to keep learning the rules of the game that nobody puts in the employee handbook, subscribe right now, because we are just getting started. I'm Soluna. I'll see you in the next one.